to the Birth and Body podcast. This is Bethany here with a special guest who's a client and a friend and a fellow midwife. So I'm super excited to have her here today. She's going to tell a little bit just about her midwife journey and then her birth story with her son, who is about 4 months old. So welcome to the podcast, Becky. So we've been friends for a few years. We started out being peer partners in school, which was one kind of dynamic. And then we were students together, like at a clinical site. So we went through that together. And then we both got licensed. We assisted each other a lot. And then you had a baby, which was super exciting. So you can just kind of introduce yourself. What would you like, kind of how you got here, how you initially became a midwife and that kind of thing?
Well, I moved here because of you.
That's true.
I
was like, please come be a student with me.
Yeah, I got into midwifery because I was born at home myself, the youngest of 6. My mom had all home births, the first 2 with a doctor, but the last 4 with a midwife. And everyone in my family was using midwives, so it was just a normal thing to me. And then my cousin was studying to be a midwife, and it sounded fascinating. So I went to my nephew's birth, and from that moment on, knew that this is what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. So I started midwifery school and met you, and then you convinced me to move to Texas.
From
Idaho.
Well, and there were few... I think a lot of people don't realize the DFW midwifery community is so unique. Like there's so many options here where many states.
Yeah, no, there just weren't, there's one midwife that did a few births a year where I'm from. So, and there's a lot of rural areas in Idaho. So it was just going to take a lot longer to get my clinical training. So I was going to have to move somewhere anyway. And here, there are so many midwives and workshops and resources. So it just was a lot better opportunity to get experience. So I figured, well, okay, I can move there for 2 years. But then met my husband and then just had babies. So now it's been 4 years.
Yeah. It's crazy how our journey changes than what we expect. Actually, that's true because I was planning to go back to Virginia too, but Texas is such a great place to practice. So
yeah, it is.
So became a midwife, got married. What was that kind of transition like, finding out you were pregnant and midwife brain, mom brain, like balance, like it's a lot.
It is a lot. Yeah. Everyone always asks me like, what's it like to be a midwife and be pregnant? And is it super helpful? And I'd always say that it's just as helpful as it is unhelpful. Because, it's helpful that I know a lot. So I know a lot about pregnancy and birth, but then in a sense, too much. That I know, I had lots of anxiety during pregnancy, just of knowing all of the things that can go wrong. And although as a midwife, I fully believe and trust in the process of pregnancy and birth and, that my job is to support that physiologic process and that most of the time it goes great. But as a midwife, my job is also to watch for things going wrong.
Right.
And so that side of my brain was constantly analyzing, every little thing. And, experiences in the past also, I think about those as a midwife and things I've walked through with other moms. And so it definitely was kind of having the normal mom fears of pregnancy amplified by midwife knowledge. So it definitely was a lot of working through those things and still, talking with you a lot about it and still, wanting to find joy and not, I still did really enjoy pregnancy, and it was a very uneventful pregnancy, which I'm so thankful for. It really was a, pretty easy, uneventful pregnancy, thankfully. So, but it was definitely hard battling the midwife brain and mom brain.
Yeah, for sure. What do you feel like, pretty uneventful pregnancy? You didn't have much nausea or any, like, it was really great.
Just heartburn. So much heartburn.
That's true. He was kind of high. That's kind of probably part of it.
Yeah, so much heartburn and headaches early on, but those went away pretty fast.
Yeah, that's awesome. So how was it like preparing for labor and birth with knowing what you know, knowing what you should be doing? Like, what did that look like for you?
I definitely knew, getting chiropractic care and then getting even, craniosacral therapy, and those things were going to be really helpful and beneficial. I mean, not only did I have sacrum pain at the end all the time, so I needed it for pain-wise, but having a history of being a dancer and just wanting to make sure that, everything was aligned and loose so that he could make his debut. So that,
hopefully as easily as possible.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, I knew that was definitely important to do. It's funny because there are also things that, you should be doing all the things, but I had a new understanding of how hard it is to do all of the things that you're supposed to do in pregnancy. Staying on top of supplements and drinking tea and eating the right things and not eating the wrong things and, knowing all of those things and knowing the benefits, it still is hard to do it. So I definitely had a new understanding for moms.
Yeah. It's like a second, part-time job.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
It is.
Yeah, that's true. And making manageable bites of knowing what it's like a lifestyle to have a healthy pregnancy. And I think midwives kind of ask for that, or not everybody, but a lot, but it's still it doesn't make it easier, even though it's helping you reach your goal.
Right.
It's still, it's still hard.
Yeah. Knowing how helpful it is doesn't make it easier to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Can be a burden sometimes. Yeah. So I know you went overdue. How was that?
So much harder than I thought. Again, as a midwife, I know that it is so normal to go past your due date, and I was only a week, I had him exactly at 41 weeks, a week past my due date, so not even way overdue by any means. So I know, I tell moms all the time, this is so normal. You're probably going to go at least past your due date, especially with your first baby. Don't have your family come early, all of these things. But my mom had her babies, only one past the due date, and my sister didn't go past her due date. So even though as a midwife, I know that,
sure,
still you're likely to go over. My expectations were still that he was going to come on time or not very much late.
Yeah.
And then I realized more and more how much that was my expectation.
Yeah.
So, and of course my mom came at 39 weeks, which she's amazing. And I was so thankful to have her here, but you're still waiting on baby, which makes it feel like you're way overdue. So,
sure.
So, I mean, the morning I had him, I actually was he's never gonna come. I'm pregnant forever. And it's a really hard mental battle. And even though this is normal, it's expected, it still is, it's waiting every day for the biggest life change. And, so you're like, okay, I need to have normal life. But any moment, everything is going to change.
The tension between the two.
Yeah. And everyone asking, how are you feeling?
All the time.
Yeah. Is baby here yet? Still pregnant? Yes, and yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah. No, it's hard.
Do you think anything helped, during that time, or just mentally trying to stay on top of it?
Distractions were helpful. You know, my mom and I kept doing projects around the house and as much as I could do at 40 weeks pregnant, but you know, washed our windows and did things to just keep things like on the agenda so that, you know, we're not just literally sitting there waiting. So that was helpful. And, you know, this was before COVID, so I could see people.
That's true. That's helpful.
Get out and do things. And then for me, I mean, something that's always helpful in relieving stress and processing is journaling and, you know, prayer. And that was very necessary during that time. And, you know, talking with you, reminding myself that this is normal, talking with other, you know, midwife friends and just, I think, getting out my angst of, I know I'm not supposed to feel this way because I know I'm supposed to know this is normal, but the mom in me is like, totally. I still feel it.
Yeah. So. And I think also like all those things, and also I know we're both more realistic. Like, well, technically it is an option to induce right now, but the likelihood of that working, potentially leading to a C-section, you know, like legit, like you still all have all the options.
For sure.
But does it make sense to wait? Does it make sense to do something like a natural induction? Or is that just going to cause like prodromal labor that might not produce something?
Yeah, and I don't want to
versus
do that.
there are, you know.
Yeah.
So I know as midwives, that's in our mind too. Like, well,
for sure.
Probably sitting here some more and going on walks is the best option.
It is the best option. Yeah.
At least for your, of course, your situation.
Right.
You know,
as
nothing
long,
was wrong and...
Yeah, we had a BPP, you know, sonogram scheduled for the day I had him.
Yeah,
to make sure that he was doing well, and
and thankfully you didn't have to wait any longer.
Yeah, I didn't have to go to it.
So how was that? I know, because you went into labor that night. So. Well, I mean, I can share from my perspective. I just had a feeling. I was like, I'm supposed to meet her at the birth center tonight with a peanut ball. Because at the time, he was still a little bit high.
Right.
And in my mind, I was thinking, why is he still high? You know, not super engaged yet. Maybe we should try this. Maybe that's why you're going overdue. So.
Right. Yeah. And that's part of what made going overdue hard too, is that I also knew those things too. Like, he's really high. He's not engaged. Why isn't he doing that? You know, he's anterior, so he's in the front, which is good, but.
Yeah, that's right. He was on the right.
But he's on the right.
We were wondering what was going on with that.
He's not moved. And
right.
So wondering, I think that was part of it being hard too, is wondering, you know, again, knowing moms do this and have babies just fine, but also, this is not exactly how I would like it going into labor.
Not maybe ideal.
Yeah.
And for people that don't know, like, labor is the baby moving through the pelvis. So with first baby, usually they're engaged, like, you know, -1 or whatever, 0 station, and already like entering the pelvis. So when you haven't had that and you're overdue, then when you go into labor, the baby's going to have to do that part plus the rest of the pelvis and dilate and everything. So it was definitely a variation that we were looking into.
Yes.
But try not to worry.
Yeah.
So how did your labor start for you, and how did it progress?
Apparently everyone but me knew I was going to go into labor that day, because my mom also was like, you're going to go into labor. But she didn't tell me that, as a good mom.
Right.
And you didn't tell me that either, because I was like, this is never going to happen. But I was just very, like, unmotivated to do anything that afternoon. Like, nothing sounds good. I don't want to do anything. I did go to the chiropractor that day, which I'm very thankful that I did. And then I went on a 2-mile walk with a friend, which was good for my mental state, but also to walk. And I went to dinner with my husband and my mom. And when I got home, I felt I'd been having Braxton Hicks since, like, I don't know, 25 weeks or something. Like I had them all pregnancy. So, you know, I'd been having those and they were strong, but not uncomfortable. And so my husband was, you know, so sweet and every night would be like, should I time these? I was like, no, do not time them yet.
Not quite time.
No. You time them when I am like not talking to you and you actually
working really hard.
Yeah. I'm talking to you, telling you that I'm having them. Don't time them. So I, you know, but when I got home, it was like 8:00 and I had the first like uncomfortable Braxton Hicks. And I was like, oh, that was different and that was uncomfortable. And by 8:30, I think I was on the phone with you and had another one that I was like, oh, that was a lot stronger. And by 9:30, they were 4 minutes apart and like 45 seconds long. And
yeah.
So it really just started very quickly out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Which is unusual.
It really was, because I remember, I think we talked, like you said, around 8:30, and then I was like, okay, well, let's just meet at the birth center, see what's going on, and I'll give you the peanut ball, because I think when we talked, we weren't thinking it would be that night at all.
No.
Knowing what we both know, like, well, it'll probably be tomorrow.
Yeah, I was like,
you'll warm
I'll
up,
go to
try
sleep.
to sleep with the peanut ball.
Yeah.
That'll help him come down. And then when you showed up, you're like, I'm having them every 4 minutes. I was like, huh, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember you said you had a few in the drive over, which you don't live far. So,
no. Yeah. So it started fast, but my prayer all pregnancy would be that it just would start fast, that I wouldn't have time to think about it and overthink things. Cause you know, it's that balance. Cause of course I know that, and I wasn't expecting a lot more like slow warm up labor, like to labor at home and you know. But
yeah, because we prepare every first time mom, like have your things that you're going to do when you're in early labor, if it's during the day and, you know, to pass the time and stuff. So I think you were farther along when you got here than we thought.
Mm-hmm.
Can't remember how far you were.
It's like 3 to 4 centimeters.
Yeah. We were super excited about that.
Yeah. No, that was awesome.
Yeah. So,
especially because I had been having, you know, mild contractions for an hour. So that's ideal.
I know. It was awesome. And then so I ended up sending you home for a little, just to see what would happen. But it kind of ramped up.
Yeah. I mean, as soon as I got home to get my things and shower, and I was going to, you know, try and labor at home. But by the time I got home, they were coming like every 2 minutes and lasting a minute and very strong. So I know my mom was like, so is this it? And I like leaned against the doorpost, like, hold on. She's like, oh, yes. Okay. Yeah,
it's definitely it.
So my dad was planning to drive down from Idaho, the 24-hour drive. So she was like, I'm going to tell him. So yeah, it hit very fast. So I pretty much went home, grabbed my things, and came back to the birth center. So I was like, this is intense, and they're coming very fast and very strong. And
yeah,
you know, I think there was a little bit in my mind of like, am I just like a wimp and this is still early labor? But I mean, I knew how far along I was already, and that, you know, even in that hour that I was here, that I was changing. So I had a feeling that it was,
that's true.
It was moving, you know, along pretty quickly. So. Yeah.
And just like super effaced, like super thinned out. So it made sense. You wouldn't need many contractions to kind of end up in that 5-6, you know, active zone.
Right. Yeah.
Cool.
No, I didn't. So.
Yeah. So you got here. And then what?
Then it is kind of a blur.
Yes.
But, yeah, contractions stayed super intense. I think I got in the tub not too long after I got here, because it was just, I mean, they were really one on top of another, and felt like I needed to, since it like started so fast, I didn't really feel like I had a chance to like switch gears into, oh, I'm in labor. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I totally envisioned myself like at home, like, you know, calmly breathing through contractions, and it wasn't really that way. It was pretty much just like hold on tight and make it through. So got in the tub, which was really helpful. And I feel like I was able to relax. Also going into it, you know, into the night. So I hadn't napped or slept or, you know, any of that. So, the tub was really helpful for just being able to kind of relax and, you know, go into labor land as much as I could.
Yeah.
And doze between contractions. I think they spaced a little bit in the tub, which is why you finally made me get out.
Yeah. I had to be mean and be like, this isn't how we're going to have a baby.
I remember you telling me, like, Becky, you're going to have to get out of the tub. And I was like, I don't want to.
Yeah.
But
and
no.
They spaced to what? I think maybe 5 or 6 minutes
Yeah.
apart. So it wasn't bad, but we knew we need them on top of each other to have a
Right. And also knew baby was high and he was a little crooked. And so in order to really get him out, he was going to need me to be upright and moving and doing things to help him navigate the pelvis. So you didn't tell me that he was crooked either and not in a great position, which I'm thankful because I would have my mind knowing those things.
Yeah.
So you made me get out and we did a lot of different positions. I know it was really helpful. Keisha Baker, who was at my birth, you know, just
the other midwife there,
telling me like, this sucks and it's really hard, but you're going to get through it.
Yeah, totally.
Because, it was so hard. I remember thinking that I liked being on the other side of it, you know, not in labor, helping the mom in labor. But now I get the baby, so it's worth it. So, it was it wasn't really that long, but it was just super intense and hard. And I was so thankful that I had the support of the birth team and my husband and my mom and mother-in-law were quietly praying for me in the corner and, you know, telling me I was doing great, even though it doesn't feel like it when you're in the middle of it.
Yeah.
So, things continued to progress and I dilated, you know, pretty quickly by, I don't know, what was it, like 2:33 in the morning? I was 8 centimeters, but baby was still really high. So that really was the tricky part, was getting him through my pelvis. And so there was so much pain in my hips and my back and just those bones spreading literally and him getting his way out. So that required a lot of physical support with, you know, rice socks and hip squeezes and back pressure and all of those things just to get through. And I remember just thinking, you know, something I always tell moms is just get through the next contraction, just get through the next one. And I thought of, you know, something that really helped me was that, and, you know, knowing, okay, just one more. Yeah. I've gotten through all of these ones. I can get through one more. And thinking of all of the moms that I have seen have babies. And just the strength that they have when they don't think they do. And seeing them birth their babies was so empowering to me, really. Like, okay, all of these moms did it. Moms all around the world are having their babies right now with me.
Oh,
like, you know, my body was made to do this. I can do this, even though it feels like I can't. So that was really helpful just in getting through labor and, really just taking it one at a time. And I also, you know, you'd have me do different positions and different things. And I knew, although I was very much in my zone of getting through this, it was also knowing the reasons why you were having me do that. And like, okay,
Something's up if she's making me almost stand on my head.
I actually didn't do inversions.
I
It's the one
really,
thing
really
I
tried
didn't
to
do.
not have you do that.
Ah,
Like forward-leaning inversions is spinning babies thing for people that don't know. And it got like you kind of are inverting yourself.
yeah, go upside down. It's like the one thing I didn't do. But it also was encouraging because I knew, because of the positions you were having me in and changing that he was moving down. Like,
Sure.
because I'm
That's
like,
true.
okay, well, he must be here now because
Sure.
now I'm doing this. And this is a mid-pelvis thing, not a high pelvis thing. So we're going, we're making progress.
Yeah. That's true. And just, I know some midwives would just wait and see what happens.
Right, yeah.
Which is so not, that's, to me, if like it's just something simple like position changes can
Help so much.
why not make this more efficient while also it's not really an intervention,
Right. Yeah. Especially because, contractions were so strong and so close that, there's no way I could do that for, a really long time.
Yeah, 24 hours even would have been right.
There's just no way I would have been done. So needing to make the most of every contraction that I was having and not waste them in the sense of, having them help make progress.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. And, I guess we finally decided it would be helpful to break my water just because he was so high and my bag was so bulgy and I was feeling so much pressure. I was like, yes, please relieve all of that pressure, which his head came right down. So it didn't help relieve the pressure, but it accomplished what we were trying to accomplish, which was getting the baby out.
True.
So, we've eventually broke my water, which is not something that we routinely do, but in some cases is helpful. And in my case, it was helpful in having, helping him come down into the pelvis and finish off that dilation. And I don't remember how much long it was.
It was a couple hours.
A couple hours later.
I think it took him a little time to sort of mold and come down and then be able to finish dilating the cervix. Because I think in the, Friedman's curve and stuff in the hospital, they just don't account for any of that.
Right.
Like
yeah,
technically
for sure.
it was a stall, but we knew you were having such good contractions. He was just having to squeeze a little to fit.
Right. And we don't measure progress just by dilation.
It's by,
There's so much else that goes into that. So there's so many other factors. And, you have made progress even if your dilation is the same.
Yeah.
And he definitely had to mold a lot. His almost 15-inch head and a little bit of a tight squeeze in the pelvis. And you could see by his cone head when he came out.
Yeah.
He definitely had to mold very quickly. It was a couple hours later. And then I kind of had a small, spontaneous urge to push, but it wasn't really significant. And I could feel that I still had cervix left, which, it's kind of just this pinching pain in the front. And knowing that I had to still work through that was both, it was frustrating for me.
For sure.
Knowing like, it's not there yet.
Keep breathing, can't push yet. Yeah.
And it was, it's so hard to breathe when you're trying, your body just is trying to push. So, but then once I finally was able to push, we had a little bit of help reducing the anterior lip, that just little bit of cervix left, because I was over it and ready to have a baby. And then only pushed for just under an hour.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Once he was through that tight spot, it was pretty efficient.
Yeah. Which is, that's very efficient for a first baby, a first big baby.
And it feels like forever in the middle of it, but
yeah, it does. Yeah. So then he was finally born.
Yeah.
9'4" and way bigger than I thought he was going to be.
Yeah. How was that, just that postpartum time, kind of same thing, being a midwife, but being a mom?
It was hard. I mean, I feel like my postpartum was not super easy, having a pretty significant weird tear that required, several stitches, and that just requiring a lot of healing, time, so much time to heal. So that was hard, and, having nursing struggles. And I think also it was hard knowing I should know how to do this. I help moms nurse.
Wow. Yeah.
But trying to figure it out on your own is a totally different thing. And he had a tongue and lip tie. So, struggling with that and
pretty sick enough where caused nipple damage and just
for sure.
Took a while for your milk to come in.
I definitely had,
it was not easy.
Sure. Yeah, no, by day 4 and my milk still hadn't come in, and I did have, blisters and things, and it was excruciating to nurse him. And I was very thankful that day 4, day 5, I had midwives come over and spend 4 or 5 hours at my house helping me with nursing and tending to my tear and just helping me with all of the things, because I needed it. And it was that day that I think, not only going through midwifery care, but especially then realizing that everyone needs a midwife. And that midwifery care is so different in that we're going to give you, we're going to give you the care that you need. No matter if it's day 4 and we need to spend 4 hours at your house, that's just what we do as midwives, is no, you need this. You can't leave the house. And, someone who has a doctor or something, sure, they may have to go in for the appointment, but they, they look at it and it just is not even remotely close to the same. Also getting my baby, having, some cranial sacral therapy on him because he was really tight, and, he needed body work after navigating the pelvis. So, it just made me so thankful to have that. And, midwives constantly checking in on you. How are you doing today? How's nursing going today?
That's true. Yeah. It's so much more follow-up and assessing, is this we kind of veered off from almost not normal. We're trying to bring it back with all the natural things. Are we back on track here?
For sure. Because, and by day 2, I was like, no, I'm doing well. He seems to be nursing fine. And then just kind of those next couple of days, everything felt like it went crazy. So, and then having to pump some to get my milk to come in, and supplement, so that he was getting supplement with, pumped breast milk. To make sure he was getting enough, and then using a nipple shield and all those things. Finally getting a, lip and tongue tie revision at 6 weeks, because we just weren't able to get on top of breastfeeding. And it took me several weeks for my tear to heal and figure out breastfeeding. I think it probably wasn't until, 7-8 weeks that I finally was like, whew, okay.
Starting to feel routine healing.
I can walk now, go on a walk around the neighborhood. I was getting up to do little things. And, I can just nurse him easily without pain and kind of fully recover. So it also made me so grateful on how, that I had so much support, and that I was able to rest and do that. And, knowing that that's really hard for a lot of our moms, but that having postpartum doulas, or especially if you don't have family,
for sure,
my husband was able to take significant time off work, and I don't know what I would have done.
Sure.
Or especially if I had other kids,
That's true. It just so much increases the rate of postpartum depression and stuff. When you don't, especially when you're in that much pain in multiple places, and things are so hard, and there's just so much pressure of, I should know how to do this. Breastfeeding is natural, but it is, but it's also so hard.
Yeah, for sure. And, I would look at, which is not helpful, don't be on social media postpartum, but, you see all these moms just breastfeeding their babies, and you're like, why can't it be like that?
Yeah.
Why is it so hard? But also knowing that it is, you both have to learn how to do it. And that's okay.
Yeah, it is kind of a puzzle, kind of like labor sometimes.
Yeah. And it was also a very humbling time for me, asking for help and saying that I needed help. Because, again, as a midwife, it's like,
Totally.
I should know.
Yeah.
But being like, nope, I'm just, one, it's okay if I don't know. But also, I'm being a mom right now and I need all the help.
Yeah.
I need help. I need a lactation consultant. I need midwives to help me with these things. I have, all these questions.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
that was good.
Yeah. Well, I loved being your midwife. And I still am like, oh, I can't believe she picked me. So, and I'm glad you met your goals. Like both times, it was just so much, like you never know what's going to happen or what you're going to need. I feel like often it's just brainstorming in the middle of it. And like you said, great team at the birth and great team postpartum made such a difference. Mm-hmm. Like it wasn't just me or just your husband or your doula, It was just like everyone together figuring it out.
Right. No,
and
for
body
sure.
work and both times, tons of body work.
Yeah.
That's true. I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was, all the things. And realize, and I think too, now looking back at my birth and thinking, if I had not been doing all that body work weekly, I mean, honestly, I wish I would have started it sooner.
Yeah.
I mean, I was getting chiropractic care, but even craniosacral therapy and, and I should now I'm like, I will walk more next pregnancy.
Sure.
I was walking more at the end, but not as much during.
Sure.
Again, those things, you should be doing. But now I'm like, I think if I hadn't done what I did, I don't, as much as I don't know, he would have had a lot more difficulty coming out or maybe wouldn't have even been able to navigate the pelvis in that way. So I'm so thankful that I
totally
did do those things, and now even more so, I'm like, they are so important.
Yeah.
Especially, yes, our bodies are made to give birth, but with our lifestyles,
right?
There's so much sitting, so much,
lack of the mobility for sure.
Yeah, that we don't do squats in our daily life, and we don't, it's just not. We don't generally have active lifestyles, and so that makes a big difference.
Yeah.
So.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you for sharing your story. I know birth stories are kind of personal, so thank you for sharing and all your tips too.
Thanks for having me and for being my midwife.
Oh, of course. Maybe we'll see when Elliot will have a sibling soon. Or maybe not too soon.
Not too soon. A little bit.
Let us know what you want to hear about, and if you've made it all the way to the end, please leave us a review. We would so appreciate that. Share about it. You can find more updates and things like that on my Instagram or Facebook. It's at Bethany Stricker Midwifery on Instagram, Bethany Stricker Midwifery Care on Facebook, and then just BethanyStricker.com for website stuff. And make sure you subscribe on Spotify or Apple so you can get notifications for further podcasts. Thanks for listening. Bye.